I'm Terry Bridger, and we'll try to finish up around our time because nobody's told us that we can go later. So we'll try to do that. Hopefully everybody got the handout. If for some reason you're popping in and you didn't get the email from Deborah Bowles' office with the handouts, email me at Teresa Bridger. It's bridgetl@pgcc.edu. Just if you type in Teresa or Bridger, I'll pop up and I'll send you the handouts. So the purpose of this is to really look at critical thinking in the college classroom. And so I put in some things in the handout that are for if we ever go back and have face-to-face classes again. And then also what you can do to kind of use the online tools. We are required to teach through BBCU, so we will not be teaching through Zoom, but we will be teaching through BBCU, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and so what you'll see is our handout, and then I'll take you to some things and kind of pop in and out, okay? So let me share. Okay, can everybody see that? It's the handout that you were sent. Everybody see it?
I can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. As long as I get a 1 yes, I figure
Yes,
that means it
can
for
see
everybody.
it.
Thanks.
We can see it.
Okay, so there's lots of reasons that we use critical thinking in the classroom. The main purpose is we're looking for comprehension. So whether that's comprehension of new concepts or skills that we're teaching, whether it's to apply what they've learned and then or analyze what they've learned, we want them to be able to think deeper about concepts. And then lastly, which kind of rolls into this, is you use it for formative and summative assessment. And summative assessment is really that check for understanding. It's that comprehension check. You're just seeing, are they getting it before I move forward? And then summative assessment is, well, did they really get it? One thing that we're going to talk about is all the different ways that you can look at using this for that comprehension or in-depth kind of information. But remember, if you're using it for summative assessment, do not ask students to do things that you haven't taught them. So for example, if you're asking them to write a research paper, then you need to give them information on how to write a research paper. If you're asking them to analyze, then make sure that they have those tools to better analyze. I'm in teacher education, and so for example, we do a lot with lesson planning. And we teach it in one class, but then we use it in many other classes. So I don't actually teach it in my other classes, but what I do is I have a whole review unit on lesson planning. And so, for example, with research papers or, you know, skills that they should have learned in lower classes, you still want to make sure they have the tools to do it, because you don't know if they've just transferred in, if they've had, you know, a teacher that maybe didn't focus on those or whatever. So just be very careful that when you're using critical thinking, you want to make sure that all your students have access and opportunities to do well in it. Otherwise, if you're not teaching them the tools and the skills they need to use that summative assessment tool, then the only people that are going to do good are those students that already had the skills before you. And our goal, of course, as instructors is to give everybody the skills so they can use them as they move on. So just be very careful of that. Anytime you have a question, feel free to either go to the chat box, which in Zoom, it may or may not pop up when I'm screen sharing. I find that sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But in any case, you can just call out if you want to, and that's perfectly fine, okay? So these are some of the ways that we can help students or get information from students. And there's a big category called all-call response. And that's really, really good for both formative and summative assessment, because we want the students to be able, we want everybody to participate, and we want to get sort of a quick and dirty scan of the room to find out if everybody got it. And so for remote learning, all you have to do is have your students make the sign. So let me show you that. So for example, all call responses, you would ask a question and everybody in a classroom would either do thumbs up or thumbs down. So in Blackboard Collaborate, there is a place for you to do thumbs up, thumbs down. So you can do that very easily in Blackboard Collaborate. You can also put signs around the room if you're in person, and they can go to the signs. So for example, what I do in my online classes is I have my students write disagree and agree, just fold a piece of paper and put it on. And so if I don't feel like using the thumbs up, thumbs down in Blackboard Collaborate, I just have them hold this up. And you could do the same thing, you know, with an A or a B. If you're giving them two choices, true and false, you could have them, if you're giving them examples, so I teach multicultural education, so this was from my class where I gave them examples and they had to tell me whether it was equity or whether it was an example of equality. So as you can see, it shows up all backwards in your screen, but that's okay because you'll be able to figure that out. And students can make this pretty easily. What I tend to do is I have them make these kinds of things that I know I'm going to use the first day of class. So the first day of class, I show them these examples and say, when you come to class from now on, bring, you know, your piece of paper that says true and false or agree and disagree. And so that way they'll have them and you don't have to stop in the middle of an exercise and ask them to find a piece of paper and do all of that. But be mindful. I'm going to go back and share this again. But be mindful in a face-to-face class that we have students that aren't going to be able to print things out. So you really have to come up with sort of innovative ways for students to be able to respond. So we have, again, agree, disagree, thumbs up, thumbs down, and we do have a Likert scale. So you can say how comfortable are you feeling with this concept. And you can use 4 points or you can use 5 points. And again, in a remote class, have the students make cards with the numbers to hold up. Or if everybody's on video, which again, we need to be mindful that some of our students don't have enough bandwidth to get on this. They sometimes can only get audio versus audio and video. But if you have them all in video, you can actually have them hold up their fingers for 1, 2, 3, or 4, how comfortable they are with things. So those are kind of all call response methods just to gauge that comprehension. And it's really nice if you're doing lecture-based rather than hands-on sort of classrooms, which we kind of have to do in Zoom, because it breaks up that monotony of just listening to somebody talk. Any questions about all call response? Okay, so the other thing is cooperative learning. And here there are just some different ways of doing cooperative learning. Think, pair, share is a wonderful way of gauging comprehension and getting students to think a little clearer. You do have to have them partner. So in Blackboard Collaborate, you would have to do breakout rooms. And in Blackboard Collaborate, you can break them up by name, or you can ask Blackboard Collaborate to break it up into X number of breakout rooms. So if you had 20 students and you wanted them to just work with a partner, you would ask it to make 10 breakout rooms. And so think, pair, share is basically you give the students some thinking time, they pair with a partner or a small group and talk about whatever it was you asked them to think about, and then they share as a whole group. And so that's a very good way of getting the discussion moving ahead to see if they can apply it before you delve into something else. The next one is pairs check. Pairs check is nice when you've had them do homework. And again, you can put them in breakout rooms. And a lot of this is partner work, but for remote learning, it's usually better to have 3 or 4. Just it makes the rooms more manageable because you can't be in all those rooms at the same time like you could in a classroom. So for pairs check, they just work it out with a partner. So they would bring their homework and they would talk about it, and they don't have to agree, they don't have to make changes, but it's a way for them to see how other people tackled that skill or that homework problem or that essay. And so if there's not agreement, then that's what you bring out to the whole group. And so it's a nice way of seeing where students are, what they're thinking. Did they retain what you taught them when they went home and did their homework? Okay. And then the last one is roundtable, and that's really good for brainstorming. This one, I'm not really sure how easy this would be unless you had everybody talk in turn, and you just have to call out people, but it's where everybody writes down an idea. And so it's just brainstorming. And in Blackboard Collaborate, you can use the white screen, which I have to say doesn't function very well. But what you could do is jot it down on a piece of paper and then like online, and then share that with the class after they brainstorm. And so basically, you know, we don't want them to think in complete sentences. There's no stupid ideas. Everybody's just brainstorming about something. And then you can bring it out to the whole class and they can use that for a writing task or to move on. And so those are some things that cooperative learning structures that you can use remotely. Any questions about cooperative learning? Okay, one last thing about cooperative learning, if you're delving into a lot of complex skills, in-depth learning, applying concepts that you've taught, cooperative learning is a great way to do it because it helps students who maybe have a hard time bridging that gap between that concrete and that not so concrete or abstract thinking. Because they're talking in a group, it helps them bridge that gap where they might not be able to do it on their own, but with the assistance of one of their peers, or if you're hopping in and out of the breakout groups, then you can do that as well. So that's the really nice thing about cooperative learning with critical thinking. I did, again, email you some graphic organizers that you can download. I didn't want you to print them all out. There is a couple places where you can find online graphic organizers that are fillable. And I'm going to show you one of them right now. Graphic organizers are really just ways for students to visually, or for you to visually organize their information of either what you're teaching or what you want. So one of the packets I sent you just has a lot of cooperative learning, graphic organizer structures in it. So you can make up your own. You can do things like this, cause and effect. This could be true and false, opinion, fact, the Venn diagram, of course, that we're all familiar with. But there's just a lot of different ones in here. And then what I want to show you is an online site where you can actually do them. Hold on, I need to go to my screen. And hold on, it does not want me to share that. Hold on, let me back out and try to share it again. It's not coming up as a choice. A portion of the screen. I don't think that's what I want. Okay, I'm not seeing this on here. I will try again. Let me exit. And exit out. Let me get into it. One of the things I did want to tell you is, and it's not on the worksheet, and I apologize, I thought I had done it, and I did not, is that you can go in to Blackboard Collaborate, and you will be able to find out that you can do polling. And so when you go to screen share, it says secondary content, I think is the word. And then right under that, you can actually do polling right there. So that's kind of like that all call response. So what I'm going to do is share my screen now. So if this will let me share it, hold on. Okay. Okay, so this, if you can see, is called liveworksheets.com, and you do have to set up a free account and set it up as a teacher. And then what you can do is they have worksheets here that you can use. You can see they're very basic, but you can also upload, and there's a tutorial if you need it, but you can actually upload. So I uploaded one of the handouts I sent you, which is semantic feature analysis grid, where you can put terms and properties, and I had given you a couple examples. And so you can actually set it up where you put in boxes. You can send the blank one to the students, and then they fill it in and they send it to your email. Unfortunately, we can't have them send it to Blackboard, but they can send it to your email. So this is about the only site that I have found online that you can do free writable templates for worksheets. So think about that again, because so many of our students don't have access to a printer, and so they're not going to really be able to be interactive in that way or print it out. So this is a nice workshop. I mean, I'm sorry, a nice website for that. Okay. It's nice to use graphic organizers when you are, there we go, when you're trying to do things such as have students organize information for a task. So writing for an essay or organizing for a project. I do graphic organizers that look like checklists with blanks in them so that students can fill them in as they're writing lesson plans, and then they can take everything from it and put it on the lesson plan template that they have to write on. So there's lots of ways to help them learn how to use graphic organizers to organize their materials, or for you to organize the kinds of concepts, especially if they're complex, difficult, they have lots of steps, or again, use the graphic organizers as an assessment tool. Any questions about graphic organizers? Okay, our next one is what we call holdables, which are really the same thing as all call response in a remote class, as they're holding that as well. But in a face-to-face class, these are things that you will have students either make or hold, and they are going to hold it up. So again, you can use polling and Blackboard Collaborate. You could use, SurveyMonkey or Doodle Poll as well. But what you can do is at the beginning, have them do it. So again, I showed you some before. This one is a 4-part, if you can see. I also teach special ed. So this is 4 kinds of disabilities that kind of are related to each other. And so it's ED, which is an emotional disorder, ASD, which is autism spectrum disorder, ADD, attention deficit disorder, and LD, which is learning disabilities. And so you just have them fold it in 4 pieces and write those on. In person, I have them do it in different colors, but as you can see in Zoom, it's hard to tell different colors. Make sure that students don't use light colors, pink, yellow. They don't show up when they're holding them up. So make sure it's dark colors, blue, red, purple, brown, black. And then when I give examples, they can hold up which of the 4 it is. So you can just have them hold it up for if you're trying to sort out between concepts, or you're teaching them, a lot of vocabulary words. They can write some of them down, and then they hold up what is the definition, what's the synonym, or what is it, the example that you're giving them, okay? The other one would be the one I showed you before with the equality and the equity. The other one you can do is with ABCD. So if you have like homework, you can have them, instead of going over it or you grading it, if you've done multiple choice questions or true false, have them write it again on the 4 and then have them hold it up so that you can go over it. And so that's just another way, especially remotely, that we can kind of keep our students engaged. In the handout, I talk about index cards, but really, because it's remote, it doesn't matter what they write them on. You can also have them in a class do post-it notes where they actually walk around and put things on categories that you've hung around the walls. And I found that's a really good way, again, to help them make those connections between those concepts and skills that you're teaching and that real life connection or that abstract connection of where we want them to go next. And so again, you can do something similar, but you'd have to do it as a poll or a survey. And I'm going to show you a couple things in a minute where you can do those online. You can set up a poll in Blackboard Collaborate. You can use SurveyMonkey or Doodle Poll, and I did give you their links at the end of the worksheet of the handouts. Are there any questions about foldables? Okay, the other thing is just short worksheets. And again, that's really for a face-to-face class. But what you can do is you can email everybody ahead of time and ask them to fill it out and upload it into Blackboard. And then it'll just give you a quick and dirty, you have to go through them all and look. Or again, you can do it as a survey or a poll. Okay, I see somebody's chatting. Yes, and Kahoot is one of the ones that I'm going to talk about in a minute. So the last thing, and you may hear about this either if you've ever worked in K to 12, or if you have children or grandchildren in K to 12, teachers in the public school systems love something called exit cards. And exit cards are where before the student leaves, you give them an index card or a piece of paper, they solve a problem, they answer a question, and they hand it to the teacher as they leave the room. Unfortunately, that's not summative assessment because you don't know how the students stand before they leave your room. It's a form of formative assessment, but it's not summative assessment. And so you can use exit cards, but exit cards are usually better for you if you think everybody's already gotten it and you just want some follow-up feedback. And again, there's not really a way to do that online. You would assign them homework, okay? If you look at the last page, well, second to the last page, but almost the last page, I've given you a bunch of online tools that either do some of these or a mixture of these kinds of things. And the first one, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share so that you can see all of this. Okay. That is not what I wanted to show you. Okay, so the first one is Kahoot. And I did put on here that there's paid accounts unless your school has it for free. PG does have it, and we are listed in there, and you do get limited functionality for a free account, so you can log in. But Kahoot is really good because you can develop all kinds of questions and games for students. They don't have to be on a laptop, they can do it on their phone, and again, it's a way of either assessing what their background knowledge is before you launch into what it is you're going to do. It's a nice way to break up your lecture, like Think, Pair, Share, just to be able to give them see if they are comprehending what you're teaching them. And then you can also use it as sort of a summative assessment before you assign homework or before you move on to another concept. So you can see they've got a whole lot of things here. It gives you reports, and so you can pull up the reports in real time to see how your students did, and then that helps you sort of guide your teaching. Okay, so Kahoots is a nice one. The next one, if you look here, is Flipgrid. And Flipgrid, if you're a student, you do this part up here where it says enter a join code. So after you set up your things, you get a join code, and then they can join it. But Flipgrid...
So we can see your screen, okay? Can you show your screen?
Oh, you don't see it. Okay,
Yeah.
Let me see. Oh, it says it's paused. Why is that? Can you see it now? Let me see.
The screen that we're seeing says Adjunct Summit, and it has the
You're
different...
kidding. Okay, hold on. Okay, share window is closed. Let's see if I can get back to it. Okay. We do most of our teaching, as I said, in, okay, here's our screen. I am sharing this. Okay, so can you see the thing that says Zoom now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so see if this works. Now can you see Kahoot?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know why it didn't share it right the first time. I did the same exact thing. And let me tell you that Zoom is much easier to teach in than Blackboard Collaborate. Blackboard Collaborate is not quite as user-friendly, but that's what we are supposed to use at the college. and I'm always shifting between the two. Plus, I use Google Hangouts and Google Meets sometimes, which is really not functionality user-friendly. So if you don't have to use Google Hangouts or Google Meets, don't use them. They're very difficult and they don't work well most of the time. So this is Kahoot. And again, it's in your handout for the site. This is Flipgrid. So this is where students would enter their joint account or their join code from you. And what you would do is you go into your account and you can create a topic. And so you can set up the discussion and then you add your students. So basically it looks like a text box that you would see, but you're adding this, and it's a topic and it's a discussion. And so this helps you if they've done their reading, done their pre-work. This is a way of helping them get more in depth with the content. A lot of us really feel that in a remote classroom, it's best for them to do all their reading and lecture notes and all of that ahead of time. And then when you come in, it should be more of coming up with what questions they have, getting them some hands-on practice or a little bit more information about the more complex skills. Otherwise, you know, it's almost a death by PowerPoint. And we do know, I don't know if you all talked about this, but there's a lot of research on what they call Zoom fatigue. And we do know that the brain works differently learning online and learning remotely than it does learning the same exact things face to face. Humans are programmed to work from faces and from social cues and from body cues, and you don't get that online. And also your brain interprets all of the information coming off a screen differently than it does it when it's in person. So we do know that both for instructors and for students, when we are teaching remotely, we do need to work in breaks. We do need, you know, if you have a 3-hour lecture, make sure it's interactive, give them some time to like come offline and do a quiz or do, you know, a sample of something and then come back in 10 minutes and share it. Because it is very, very tiring. Having taught remotely all summer, it's very tiring. The next one, if you don't know about, is Nearpod. And Nearpod has a free account, which does a lot. You do have to, if you want to do everything, you do have to have a paid account. And it's, I think, $10 or $12 a month. But you can sign in for free. Some of the things look a little K-12-ish. Because that's really who it's designed for. But again, the nice thing is you can have students do things on their phone. So they can do surveys, they can do polls, they can answer multiple choice questions. So there's a lot of different things you can do on Nearpod. And in some ways it's a lot like Kahoot. And they both have games that you can have the students play to see who can answer the questions faster and that kind of thing. The next one, if you don't know it, is Screencast-O-Matic. And this is a wonderful free, and actually the college has this for everyone now, but you can get on it now for free and then get the premium version when the college, I think they've already sent that out, but I'm sure they'll do it again. But Screencast-O-Matic makes videos. And videos, we know students connect better with instructors who share videos. And they can see their instructor a little bit and hear the voice. So it's a very nice a way to do it. And so what you can see is, if I take you to my account, I use these in different ways. So one of the things I do, again, is lesson planning. So I broke up lessons into the different parts. And I made a video so that after they do all their reading, they can look at the video and it just takes them through the different parts of that part of the lesson. And otherwise, I'd have a half-hour video, a 45-minute video. No one's going to sit through that. So break it up into short things. If you look at this, you see I have 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 2.5 minutes. Most of these are very short. These longer ones down here that just say recording, that's actually student feedback. And that's the other wonderful thing about Screencast-O-Matic is you can actually do video feedback and upload it into your comment section in the grade book in Blackboard. So again, for complex assignments, rather than giving them a whole lot of feedback, What I have done is I've developed checklists, and then I give them the checklist with feedback, but then I also give them a video where I kind of talk it through and say, you know, you said this here, and here's a better way of saying it. And I just tried it out last spring and this summer, and my students have raved about it. Now, you cannot do that for every assignment. You drive yourself insane. But pick out maybe the one assignment that you feel that students always have problems with because it's so complex, and try it and see if it works. If you allow like a rough draft and then a final, you might only do it with the people that don't seem to be getting it on the rough draft. So it's not even like you would have to do it with everybody. But Screencast-O-Matic is a nice way of helping students better comprehend these complex skills and concepts. The next one is Quizlet, if you're not familiar with this. And Quizlet is a way you can say you're a teacher and you get started, and it helps you set up quizzes for your students. And you just make them up, and then they do them online, and then you get the feedback. And again, they have a free and a paid version. SurveyMonkey, Doodle Poll, we've talked about. The next one that you might not know is Class Dojo. This is really K-12, and it's really to focus, it started out to focus on behavior and to help students become better, more well-behaved in the classroom. But the nice thing about it is it has, if you go in under teacher, it has some things about portfolios. And so if you do portfolios in your class and you've done them by hand, this is a way that you can actually do them through Class Dojo. And again, there's a free account as well as a paid account. And then the last one I want to show you is Socrative. And again, you can have a bigger one, but Socrative is nice. It's a little less K-12 than Class Dojo, and it doesn't focus on behavior. But this has got lots of tools for teachers. It has quizzes, it has team activities, and again, they all of these websites have places where you can learn how to do it. Most of them have free stuff, and most of these are things that your students can do on their phones, so that if they are accessing your class through their phone, they still have full functionality. So those are some of the online tools that you can use to kind of make your remote class a little bit more interactive, as well as kind of assessing whether they're learning or not. I have done lots of online teaching from, I don't know, 2004, 2005, and I have found that this spring, with everything that was going on, even my online students needed a lot more hand-holding, a lot more guidance than I have typically found. And I think it's because everybody's so frazzled and they're being pulled in a lot of directions. They've got a lot of worries of things that are going on in the world, in the economy, in their own lives. And so I think we are trying as instructors to have students do a lot with critical thinking, but we really have to guide them to do it. We can't ask them to do things when we're not giving them the tools. So these are just some things that I've used over the years, and I found them helpful. So I hope you find them helpful. And I wanted to leave a little time for questions. I know we're 5 minutes over, but since we started 25 minutes late, I think we're good. So does anybody have any questions or comments? You guys are all tuckered out from all your other workshops, I guess, huh? So very useful, thank you. So if you are, I'm sorry?
I said I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Antonia. If you did not get the handout that I was showing you, please email me, and I will, all the links, Debbie, are on the handout. Okay, the only one that isn't is the very first one, which is liveworksheets.com. Somehow I thought I had put that on there, and then I realized I did not. Okay, so you know, if you didn't get the handouts, let me know. I'll send them out to you. If you have any questions or, you have ideas you want to share, feel free to email me, especially as we go through this, real first semester. I mean, spring was kind of a let's do what we can to get through. But this may be the way we're teaching for quite a while. So I think it's good if we have sort of a community to share ideas with. So please feel free to do that. And my email, if you just Google me in the Outlook system, it's Terry Bridger. So if you type in Terry, Terry, or Teresa, Teresa, my last name is Bridger, Bridger. And if I know Deborah sent out all of the graphic organizers as well. Again, not sure that's really useful in this kind of environment, but again, if for some reason you didn't get those additional worksheets or handouts, let me know and I'll send those out also.